In this video, I'm going through some of the best vlogging cameras that you can get for your vlogging adventure, and I'm not doing it alone. I have a group of friends with me, and we're all talking about the cameras that we use and some tips to, whoa!
Yo, bro!
Yo, what's up? Check it out, it's Josh from Make Art Now.
Oh, did I interrupt you?
Okay, so I teamed up with a group of vloggers, and we're all talking about the cameras that we use and some things that you need to consider when you're out vlogging. I gotta see this camera.
I broke this screen, so you can now hinge it all the way backwards. Don't even need the A6400. You got this one.
Guys, if you're new here, my name is Jevin Dovey. I do a lot of filmmaking tutorials, YouTube training, and I actually started my channel by just doing tons and tons of vlogs. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any of these tutorials. Now, the reason that I pulled in a bunch of my friends to see their vlogging setups is to show you guys that it really doesn't matter what you shoot on, because at the end of the day, what matters is the content that you're shooting. And out of all of this, I just want you to get inspired and see what different people are using to hopefully find ways to either upgrade your kit, build your kit, or just think of different things that you could use to potentially vlog with. Now for me, I've been shooting on the Olympus EM1X, and that's what you saw on the intro here. And the reason is the autofocus. The autofocus on this camera is amazing, and I come from the Micro Four Thirds world. So this camera that I'm shooting on right now for in my office is the Panasonic GH5, and this is my go-to camera for everything that I shoot. However, the autofocus isn't that good. So when I'm out vlogging, I've now switched over to the Olympus EM1X, which, yes, this is a more expensive camera. It's not gonna appeal to everyone out there. However, it works very well for vlogging. It's got face detect, it's got all of that good stuff. So your shot is always in focus and you don't really have to worry about it. So my friends Eric and Allison are traveling the world. Their channel is The Endless Adventure, and they're non-stop vlogging. So let's hear from them on the cameras that they use, and they also have some awesome tips for you for when you're out vlogging.
Thanks a lot, Jevin, for having us in the video. For everyone watching right now, my name is Eric.
And I am Allison, and our channel is The Endless Adventure.
And our content is focused on just traveling the world, showing off the most unique foods and unique places that we can find. When we first started vlogging, we started on a Canon G7X, which is a little point and shoot camera, and it was a great tool to start with, but since then, we've always been trying different cameras. We've went through maybe 6 different cameras at this point, and what we finally settled on is the camera that we're filming with right now, the Sony a7 III. The first thing that I love about this camera is the size. Now, of course, it's a lot bigger than the Canon G7X that we started on, but it's also much smaller than a classic DSLR.
And I love the autofocus on this camera. On our previous ones, I wear glasses when I'm not wearing my contacts, especially on travel days, and it would never find me in a shot. I was always blurry, and I always ruined so many shots for us, but this one is amazing.
Never had a problem since we switched to this one.
Another thing we love is the battery life on this. We used to go through how many batteries in a day?
I'd go through 3 or 4 batteries a day.
At least. And now we go through one. Not even one.
Yeah.
We don't even get through this full battery in a day.
The other thing I love is that with this camera, it creates amazing 4K video, has 120 FPS, slow motion, all that good stuff, but it's also an amazing photo camera. I think it's 24 megapixel, so you can get really high quality photos, but also easily switch to video mode when you're kind of running and gunning and vlogging on the fly. As far as audio goes, we use this camera with a Rode Video Micro, which is this tiny microphone that's under $100 USD. It's not the greatest microphone, but it doesn't require an external battery, and as you can hear, the audio is decent on it. There's one other small thing I want to mention about our setup. We always make sure that we have a solid wrist strap attached to the camera, and I've seen other vloggers walking around without the wrist strap on there, and to each their own, but for us, if we're ever holding the camera, we have the wrist strap on, because with a camera this expensive, you don't want to take any chances. I also carry the Peak Design capture clip on my belt everywhere I go to keep my camera nice and secure.
So on to the dislikes. The first big one is that this does not have a flip out screen, and it flips up but not out, so we don't ever actually know what we look like.
But Sony just came out with the a6400, which is a smaller camera than this with a crop sensor, but it does have a fully flip out screen.
So while this sucker is lighter than a DSLR, it does get pretty heavy, which is really unfortunate when we're trying to do long talking spots. Poor Eric's arm gets wiggly, or when I'm trying to film stuff and I don't have as much strength, it can really wear you down after a while.
Yeah, we've also got a pretty large, hefty lens on this thing, so if you get a lighter lens, it might not be that big of an issue. But if you do want something lighter, go with the Sony a6300 or the a6400 that I mentioned. We actually carry around an a6300 as our secondary camera, and we love it. The low light performance on this camera is pretty good. Now, the camera we had before this was the Sony a7S II, and that one's kind of known for its awesome low light performance, and it really was great in low light. So it was a bit of a quality hit that we had to take by switching to this one, but it has so many more features like the autofocus and stuff like that that I think it was worth it. So it just depends on what's most important for you.
Yeah, we're not night owls anyway, so it's not that big of a deal.
So those are our likes and dislikes about the Sony a7 III that we use, but we also want to run through some of the other gear that we carry as well. So we already mentioned the a6300 that we carry as our secondary camera, but we also have a GoPro Hero 7 for the action shots and the underwater shots. And of course, we have our tiny little DJI Spark drone. It might not produce the best video quality, but it's small and it's light and it gets the job done.
Our biggest tip for people that are just starting out vlogging is to not feel like you have to be a natural at vlogging when you start.
Yeah, definitely. When we first started out, we were super awkward on camera.
The only thing I said for our first year was, yeah. I didn't know how to interact with the camera.
I think the main thing is to work on having your personality show through. One trick that we use is when I looked at the camera, it can be really intimidating, but I just tried to envision like my mom or my best friend or something, which at that point were the only people watching anyway. But don't feel like it's a skill that you have to be a natural at, you know, it's something that you can learn because we were not naturals at all. We just had to learn it as we went.
Just don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just have fun. You'll get better. You'll look back. It'll be cringy, and that's totally fine. That means you're doing it right.
All right, back to you, Jevin.
So I know a lot of you are Sony fans, and one of the biggest issues when it comes to vlogging with a Sony camera is that you don't have a flip out screen. Now Josh here found a solution to that, and I want you to see his setup because this is interesting for sure.
This is what you should not do. Unless you have a robust insurance plan, don't do this. But I basically bent the hinges on my camera, so now the monitor, instead of stopping right there, I can now bend it all the way over. And I vlog upside down. It sounds stupid, but let's try it. Oh yeah, it totally works. I have face tracking locked on. This was just a simple 5-minute tweak, bending the hinges and making the monitor go pretty much backwards. And to be honest with you, when I did it a month ago, I didn't think it was gonna work out that well. And after shooting on it, on all 3 of my Sony cameras without any issues, it's worked out really, really well. And in post, all I have to do is just rotate it 180 degrees, and I think it works great.
Hey, it works great if you are a Sony shooter, you already have these cameras. Now, I'm not gonna suggest you go and do this because you are ruining your camera, but Josh does have a video all about this on his channel. So if this is something that you wanna do and you already have this camera, then I'll link down to it down below. Now, if you're looking for a cheap vlogging setup, I recently reviewed the Canon M50. And personally, I think that this is a perfect starter vlog camera because the autofocus is really good. It's a super lightweight camera, super easy to use. However, the one downside with it is that you can only really shoot 1080p. The 4K doesn't work that well because it's cropped in. You got this crazy jello effect going on. But if you're looking for a starter vlog camera, then the Canon M50 is a great place to start. And my buddy John Barr uses it all the time, and he highly recommends this camera.
Thank you, Jevin. I've had the M50 for 10 months now, and let me say, upgrading from the tiny point-and-shoot camera that I had for the first 2 years of my YouTube career, this has been a game changer for me. It's small, it's compact. It's just 1 pound. I can take it anywhere in the world and it's not gonna bother my back when I've got a backpack on. I'm using an 11-22 right now. I love the flip screen. I would never get a camera that does not have a flip screen where I can adjust myself and set up shots just right. For me, the Canon M50 is the best portable vlogging camera. Thanks a lot, Jevin.
I think one of the things that you need to think about when you're vlogging is you want to focus more on the content that you're shooting. I said this at the beginning. Focus on the content, not the gear so much. So if you are just starting out in this world and you're just starting to learn cameras and everything that goes into shooting content, then picking a camera that's easier to use is going to help you develop your skills as a vlogger. So starting with something like the Canon M50 or just your phone is the best way to start. You can vlog using your phone, you can vlog using a GoPro. I spent 2 weeks in Thailand and I completely vlogged only using my GoPro, which worked great because I was more focused on the content that I was shooting. Even though I did have a bigger Sony camera with me when I was there, I used that for just like some B-roll shots but focused more on just capturing the vlog content using a GoPro. Now, my friends over at The Way Away are also traveling the world, so I got some more tips for you from Ashley and Josh.
Chance to prove myself. Take the wheel, hit the gas, gonna race some hell.
Thanks, Jevin. We're Josh and Ashley, and we run a travel YouTube channel called The Way Away.
We've been traveling around the world for about 4 years now, since 2015. We usually focus on Europe, but right now,
we are in Bangkok, Thailand.
So the camera that we use to record with is the Panasonic GH5. I have a Rode Studio Mic Pro Plus as a microphone. We also have a GoPro. Sometimes we use this iPhone here, which is an iPhone XR. As you can see, I'm walking. It's not too bad shaky. We also have a DJI Mavic Air, which is fantastic for drone shots. And that's about it as far as cameras go.
We have stopped for one of our favorite things here in Thailand, some Thai iced tea. It's delicious and refreshing and perfect for right now. We want to talk about a few different things about our camera setup that we really like. One of the things that I really appreciate is that it has a flip out screen and we can be sure to frame everything the way that we want them to.
So it's not a shot of our chins or our nose?
Yeah. Another thing is that when we film slow-mo, you can actually play it back in slow-mo
It's
immediately
real
after.
slow-mo.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that part. And lastly, for a really good camera, it's a fairly light camera.
Yeah.
And our lens is fairly light as well, which is helpful.
As the person doing the filming, one of the things that I really appreciate is that one battery can usually last me all day. I don't have to carry around tons of extra batteries. The lenses and the body itself work in tandem to do stabilization, so even if I'm moving around, it's not going to be
That's amazing.
super shaky.
Yeah.
Another thing is that the camera itself is weather sealed and it has a ruggedized metal body, meaning it can take a few knocks and it can get splashed or rained on a little bit and it'll be okay.
Which it has.
It has 422, 10 megabit, 400 megabits per second, 10-bit file size,
any of
which
that
basically
means.
just means about as good as you can get without going crazy overboard. It's not the best, but I think it's probably the best in class for the price and the style of camera that it is. And as much as I do love this camera, there are a few things that are negative. Despite it being, in my opinion, the best in class, here's some cons that I wrote down. Autofocus is bad while recording. If you need autofocus, it's not very good. A lot of the native lenses are fly-by-wire, meaning it's not fully mechanical. It's hard to manually focus too. You gotta be very precise. It's not great in the dark. Low light isn't very good. It has a very small micro four thirds sensor, meaning it's hard to get a wide angle lens. And one last thing is you can't charge it over USB. You can only charge the battery with it out of the camera. So when you're out of batteries, you either have to swap a new battery in or you're just out. So those are our thoughts on the GH5 specifically, but we thought it'd be good to try and give you guys a tip. In terms of travel vlogging, it can be really easy to go overboard on B-roll, basically just pretty shots and music. People are watching your vlogs for you and your experience and your personality. It's not about pretty shots. They serve a purpose, but only for a very short time. I try to keep pretty shot sequences down to 15, 30 seconds maximum if I can.
We want to thank you, Jevin, for asking us about our camera equipment. We hope all these tips help you guys out.
Okay, so we can't do a video about the best vlogging camera without mentioning the DJI Osmo Pocket because this camera works very well, but some of the issues with it is that it is so small. The audio is not the best because you just have the little hole on the front, so if there's wind or anything like that, it really doesn't sound the best. If you hit this in any way, you kind of hear the sound, and it's not the widest lens in the world. However, there's a little solution. Check this out. Little wide angle lens from Olanzi, and now you have a much better vlogging camera with the DJI Osmo Pocket. So definitely a good option if you want something small that you can always have in your pocket. I highly suggest the DJI Osmo Pocket. It's something that I use. I keep it on me everywhere I go because it's so easy for me to just pull this out and do some quick vlogging like this. Super stable, and like I said, this little wide lens thing makes such a difference. All right, so I asked my buddy Tal from the Traveling Clat. He is in New York right now on the cameras he uses when he's out vlogging.
Hey, Jevin. So I'd like to introduce myself to you and your audience. My name is Tall, also known as the Traveling Clad Online, and I've been traveling around the world for the last 4 years, exploring the best things to see and do on our planet, as well as tasting some delicious food. More recently, I moved to New York City and I've been exploring the best sights and sounds and eats of New York City. And with that, I've been able to test my gear and push it to the limits, whether I've been in snowstorms or on a bright sunny day or in freezing cold. It's been really fun to test out how my gear works in different environments here in New York City. So currently my vlog setup is as follows. I have a Sony a7S II with a 16mm prime lens on it that is actually not built for this camera. On top of that 16mm prime, I have a wide angle adapter that I think brings it up to about a 10 or 12. I'm not 100% sure. I bought it on one of my trips to Japan. As well, at the bottom of the a7S II, I have a Joby GorillaPod, the more expensive version that's made out of metal. And on top of the camera and the hot shoe, I have a Sony microphone. It's the basic one that Sony makes that doesn't require any cables or any batteries. It just plugs in straight to the hot shoe of the camera and connects immediately. And on top of that, I have a dead cat that I bought at B&H Photo here in New York City, and I use that to record my audio. So some upsides and downsides to my camera setup, what I like and what I don't like about it. For one, I can't use the full capabilities of my full frame camera. My camera is a mirrorless camera, the a7S II, and it's full frame, but I can't use the capabilities of it because I'm using lenses that were not built for this camera. I partly use those lenses because I purchased a camera. I was using the a6500 before this one, and I just still have the same glass from this camera. So I can't get those full shots that I always like to do, but what I really like about these small lenses on my setup is the fact that they're very discreet, especially when I take the little adapter off. It's just really tiny, and I like to be as discreet as I can when I'm vlogging, especially when I'm traveling around the world to different countries, so it really helps out in that aspect. At the bottom of my camera, I have a Joby GorillaPod, like I mentioned. I really like this tripod because it works for everything that I need it to, but I also really hate this tripod because it's really loose. I can't really rely on this tripod. I can't just leave it and count on it to stay up. It drives me a bit wild. So in the world of YouTube, there's a lot of competition, especially when it comes to gear. So starting out, you might be a little overwhelmed with what type of camera you might want to go to, what kind of camera setup that you want to go to, whether you want to spend $2,000, $5,000, $100 on a camera setup. I am here to tell you that it honestly does not matter. As long as you can shoot at least 480p, at the very least. It doesn't even matter if it's a potato. If you can literally pick up a potato and shoot 480p video with it, I promise you, as long as the story and the content itself is good, you'll be able to gain some sort of fan base, some sort of audience, some sort of community that will watch and engage and like your videos. The camera quality, really, you can ask any creator, really does not matter. If you look on my channel personally, all of my top videos were shot with probably the worst cameras that I had, but it doesn't matter because it was either information that people wanted to see, content that engaged with people, made people happy, or stuff that I knew was going to blow up. So you could literally film on a potato and it does not matter. For the past 5 years that I've been doing YouTube, have used over 15 cameras from 5 different brands, and I promise you that it never, ever matters. Basically what I'm trying to say is that the camera quality has never been the determining factor for a video of mine to blow up or to do well on YouTube. That's my basic outlook on this whole YouTube thing. It doesn't really matter what camera you have, just as long as you're making that good content. I'm gonna send that back off to you, Jevin. We'll see ya.
So for someone who's getting into vlogging, what would be like one tip that you would say for their YouTube channel? Like what's something that they should think about?
I think if you're just starting out with vlogging, the first thing is going to be that fear of just being weird or having people stare at you. Like right now, there's probably 5 people staring at me somewhere, collectively.
There's been people staring at us all day.
Yeah, but like 2 people right here, they just stared at me. So what? And then they passed and they left. And the truth is that if you can figure this out, if you can master this, it's worth $10 million.
Good advice.
You gonna say no to $10 million?
Definitely good advice. You just need to go out there and shoot and not worrying about what people are thinking when they're seeing you out vlogging. You gotta remember, you're putting your content online for people to watch. So who cares if they're watching you in public, because all of these people are gonna be, thousands of people are gonna be watching you and what you do on a camera and judging you there. When it comes to creating vlogs, you just have to remember a few things. You just have to go for it. You have to just get out there, shoot the content, but you also have to think story first. Don't just shoot a bunch of random stuff and think that people are gonna wanna watch it. You wanna come up with an idea and you wanna come up with a story before you flip on the camera. So always think through what it is that you're shooting and come up with more of a plan before you hit that record button and just spray the camera around shooting everything. Guys, if you wanna learn more about how to grow your YouTube channel, things that work, how to go after topics that work. I'll put a link down below in the description and at the end on the end screen to a playlist that's all about how to start your channel, how to grow your channel, and best practices when you're going out there and creating your vlogs. All right, make sure you head over to all of my friends' channels, check them out. They got some really awesome content, and you'll be able to see all these cameras in action when they're out vlogging. All right, guys, that's it. I'll see you on the next one.